Hello and welcome to another Writer's Showcased. Best Disney villain entrance ever. Too bad it was in a terrible movie. Anyway, so far I only have one guest because our favorite geriatric is AWOL. But allow me to bring in Carl Saylor.
Hey, yo. How you doing, folks?
Oops.
You back.
Yep. It is very good to have you back.
All right.
All right.
So in that case, I guess I'm starting us off today.
Yep. Go for it.
All right. So as you may remember from last time, I did mention that we will be starting to get into the juicy political matter of this work. So let us proceed with chapter 14 of The Waters of Akra, The Lamp Guide. The thin crescent moon was already perched high in the ink-black vault of night when Shenna staggered out of the three bridges. The walkways were hung with thick curtains of shadow, with only a few scattered oil lanterns hung about the doorway of the tavern, probably more to draw people in than hold back the gloom. Shenna took only a few ragged steps before collapsing into a sobbing heap against the nearby wall. It wasn't supposed to be this way. After all the time they'd spent together, how could Gareth just... Hang on. How could Gareth just go off and marry someone else? Didn't all those late-night visits count for anything? All those stories, lessons, and deep, passionate conversations? How could he throw all of that away so carelessly? Boys weren't supposed to treat girls like this. Like mere baubles to be switched out with the turning of the fashion and cast aside like garbage. And what was worse, Gareth hadn't even mentioned any of this to Shenna. Something like this would have had to have been in planning for at least a month, more than enough time to bring it up at one of their nocturnal encounters. And this was marriage, not just some inconsequential shard of gossip. He should have been babbling about it for weeks, and yet it had completely slipped his mind. How could anyone be so thoughtless? Perhaps Gareth was one of that vile sort of man who thought he could carry on 2 or more relationships at the same time. Perhaps he thought since he was noble-born that mere common girls like Shenna weren't as valuable as delicate noble maidens like Elira. Shenna's sorrow slowly began to sour into rage as she dwelt on the idea. Gareth had already neglected to mention his dalliances with Talene. What was one more girl to a juggler of hearts like him? Why, if he were standing here in front of her, she would... You all right? Shenna looked up to see a figure standing over her, silhouetted against the lanterns by the door. Its face was shrouded in shadow, but Shenna didn't need to see it to know that it was Gareth. Come on, he said, extending a hand down towards her. It didn't seem possible that someone so gentle and kind should be so careless with a girl's feelings. Shenna looked at Gareth's outstretched hand. Maybe the marriage arrangement hadn't actually been his decision? Yes, of course, that had to be it. Elira could be quite persuasive when she wanted to be, and Gareth was just too gentle-hearted to tell her no. It was an endearing flaw. Shenna took Gareth's hand and struggled back onto her feet, still wobbling a little from the drink. Why didn't you tell me? Shenna asked, sniffling away a drizzle of tears. About what? About you and Elira. Gareth shrugged. Not much to tell, really. Our families decided to establish a working relationship. They get access to our holdings along the River Sarn, and we get their name and prestige and all the access that comes with that. And since neither of us is the primary heir to either house, the relationship isn't so close as to create too many entanglements down the line. Everybody wins. Everybody except me. Did you have any say in the arrangement? Not really, Gareth said. I was at the Magisterium all through the negotiations, after all. I see, Shanna nodded. That was good. Well, not good exactly. It wasn't fair for Gareth or Elira to be forced into marriage without their consent, but at least this whole business hadn't been Gareth's idea. He might be inclined to protest this engagement if he could, or even break it off altogether. Both our families told us what they were planning, of course, Gareth added. Neither of us could have refused it if we wanted to. But you didn't. Shenna opened her mouth to ask if Gareth wanted to refuse, but stopped herself when she realized how foolish the question was. She would have known if Gareth had refused. Then again, would she? How long have you known about this? Shenna asked. Well, it's only been official for about a month or so, but... A month? Shenna blurted out. A whole month and you didn't tell me? Gareth shrugged again. We were busy with... Don't give me that, Shenna cut him off. There's been plenty of time to bring it up. All right, what is this about? Gareth chuckled. You're being really weird about this. Weird? Shenna huffed. How am I being weird? You're the one who didn't tell me you were getting married. And where was Elira in all of this? I've never even heard you mention her, or heard her mention you. Are you jealous of her? Gareth said. Shenna's anger faltered for a moment. I suppose I am jealous. I thought maybe... Gareth walked over to Shenna and put an arm over her shoulder to comfort her. Look, Shenna, you're pretty and all, but But! Shenna exploded out of Gareth's embrace. But what? Calm down, Gareth chuckled again. There's no need to get all worked up about this. I'm just saying that... Shenna never heard what Gareth had to say. Within moments, a solid shove sent the boy plunging over the edge of the walkway and into the dark waters below. Shenna stormed off into the night without looking back to see if Gareth was all right. That lecherous little skirt chaser could drown for all she cared. Iseldra's warning rang true after all. Any man who couldn't see beyond a woman's looks was not worth pursuing. And alas, it seemed that Gareth was just such a man. Shenna wanted to slap herself for being such a fool. She should have seen through Gareth in an instant. But she had allowed herself to be taken in by his calm attitude. Shenna could see the truth now. That wasn't calm. It was apathy. She saw it in Gareth's lidded eyes, in his flaccid, empty smile, to his endless shrugging, that subtly condescending way that he spoke to her. Of course he didn't care about her feelings. He didn't care about anything. Just another pampered nobleman drifting through life without purpose or ambition. Shenna didn't cry as she aimlessly wandered the Shadow City. She was too angry for tears. Were all the nobility as frustratingly arrogant as Gareth? Elira, at least, was certainly cut from the same base substance, she who could fly into a rage over a simple mishap with a dress. Perhaps they deserved one another after all. Yes, Shenna wished the two of them a long and miserable life together. She was rounding a corner in the darkness when Shenna suddenly lurched forward, barely putting her hands out in time to keep from landing flat on her face. What was wrong with her tonight? She hadn't tripped over her skirt in ages. Curse this darkness, and curse this fuzz in her head from the beer, and curse Gareth most of all for dragging her all the way out to the other side of Akra just to smash her heart into pieces. The kettle of frustration already simmering away inside her began to boil over and let itself out with a hiss of rage. Shenna? She looked up and flinched when she found herself staring into a brilliant white upside-down flame, exactly like the one she'd seen in Elira's palanquin. Who's there? She growled, raising a hand to shield her vision from the light. Ha! It really is you, the voice said again, sounding dimly familiar. I thought I recognized that outfit. Here, let's get you up off the ground. By the time Shenna had gotten back onto her feet again, her eyes had adjusted enough to make out the face of the figure holding the pole lantern. a brown-haired boy with a wide, gap-toothed grin and a sparkle in his gray eyes. "It's you," Shenna blurted out, rummaging through her memory for a name. "Yannick, was it? The thief?" "Not anymore," Yannick said, puffing out his chest and giving his lantern a proud shake. "I'm a lamp guide now, thanks to you." "To me?" Shenna blinked. "Really?" "Oh, absolutely," Yannick said. "Oh, do you need to get somewhere? I can light the way for you." She hardly needed a moment to consider the offer. It was either that or try and fumble her way back across the city in the darkness. "Can you take me to the Magisterium?" "Sure," Yannick said. "Follow me and stay close." Yannick and Shenna started off together down the walkway, with the lantern driving back the shadows. At first, Yannick led the way, and Shenna followed behind him, but after a time they began to walk side by side so as to keep better conversation. "I knew I had to put that money you gave me to good use," Yannick recounted as they traveled. "I didn't want to just waste it on a few days of luxury, but I didn't want to sit on it either. I thought about maybe taking it up to Gold River, but I don't know anything about investing, and besides, the people there might think I stole it. Then one day I wandered into a pledge broker's shop down in the old city, and I spotted this old lamp. And of course, I've seen lamp guides all over the city at night, and I know my way around the waters pretty well, so I thought maybe I could give this a try." "And how has that been working for you so far?" Shenna asked. "Not too bad," Yannick said. "I'm paying for food more often than not these days. It really does taste better when you're not looking over your shoulder for an angry baker. And I have 2 blankets in my sleeping crate now, one for warmth and the other to soften the ground." "I see you've gotten some new clothes as well," Shenna remarked. Yannick now wore a plain white tunic with a light brown vest and a simple pair of dark trousers. They were hardly glamorous, but at least they were intact and clean. "Picked these up at the same pledge broker shop where I found the lantern," Yannick smiled. "Now that I'm no longer a beggar, I feel I ought not to dress like one." "And are you turning a profit?" "Well, not yet," Yannick admitted. "Magic from the lantern has been costing me about a shem every month or so. That's my main expense besides food. I'm still not used to all the counting that goes with this job, but the way I figure it, if I can make at least 4 chalk a night, that puts me on track to make a profit." 4 copper chalk. Shenna ran over the calculations in her head. At that rate, working 6 nights a week, Yannick would make 4 and 20 chalk in gross per week. 2.5 weeks out of every month would pay for magic for the lantern, with the rest of the month's profit, about 6 and 30 chalk, to cover food and other expenses. That didn't leave a lot of room for error. "And how much do you spend on food, typically?" Shenna asked, unable to keep the worry off her voice. "Only about 20 harrick a day," Yannick said. "I get 2 loaves a day from a bread seller in Mudtown. It's mostly sawdust, I know, but at least it's cheap." "I see," Shenna nodded. 10 harrick for a single loaf of bread that contained mostly sawdust? Back in Riverwatch, a single harrick would buy 3 loaves, and the mere suspicion that the baker was cutting his flour with sawdust could trigger a brawl. "And is there any way you might increase your profits?" "Not really," Yannick sighed as they rounded a corner and emerged onto a main thoroughfare. Across the canal, Shenna could see a large mass of people milling about with pole lamps twinkling like fireflies above their heads. "Most of the work is over there in the Redstones," Yannick said. "Lots of stuff there. Taverns, theaters, music halls, gaming dens, other things. Plenty of people wanting a quick light from here to there to here. Of course, the trouble is every other lamp guide in town knows it too." "They all gather there," Shenna said. "Do they ever?" Yannick groaned. A number of voices were becoming clear from across the canal. "Light the way! Any way you want to go! Only 5 harrick each! Only 3 harrick each! 2 harrick! Combined rates for a group! Ladies walk for free!" "They're all undercutting each other on price," Shenna noted. "The busier it is, the worse it gets," Yannick said. "Some nights I can hit my target before it's even midnight. Other nights I work straight till sunup with barely 2 chak to show for it. Maybe you could try working somewhere else in the city? Shenna suggested, as a corner swallowed up the crowd. I've tried that, Yannick said. Taylor's Landing, Lakeshore, and Gold River all but closed down after dark. The clearways don't let people like me in at all, and only idiots go to Mudtown after dark. I only know a few spots in the Blackstones and the Old City that might work, but there's already a few lamp guides working there. And then you'd be right back where you started? Shenna nodded. Exactly, Yannick sighed. Whenever there's 2 lamp guides in the same place, we always compete to see who can drop their prices the lowest. Shenna considered for a moment. Why don't you just not compete? What? Why don't you talk to the other lamp guides and agree on a set minimum rate? That wouldn't work, Yannick said with a dismissive laugh. Have you tried it before? Shenna pressed. Well, no, but... Yannick stammered. But look, an agreement? Just a promise not to cut prices? It can't possibly work. I mean, they'll just undercut me. They were going to do that anyways, Shenna said. Where's the harm in trying? It can't get much worse than it already is. Well, Yannick shrugged. Besides, Shenna continued, price competition hurts the other lamp guides as much as it hurts you. They still get less than they would have gotten. All of you stand to profit from cooperation. But it's not, Yannick protested. Look, all it takes is one lamp guide charging a lower price and the whole thing falls apart. Then talk to all of them. All of them? Yannick laughed. Every last lamp guide in Akra? Why not? Shenna suggested. Like I said, it's in everyone's best interest. Nah, Yannick shook his head. I'll give it a think over. The rest of their journey passed pleasantly, and before long, Shenna and Yannick were standing before the north gate of the Magisterium grounds. As payment for the journey, Shenna left the rest of her stipend with Yannick. It's only 3 shem and 25 chak, Shenna said bashfully. I'm sorry it's not as much as last time, but... Shenna, please. Yannick cut her off gently as he accepted her gift. This is 3 whole months' worth for me. You have nothing to be sorry about. I know, Shenna said. I just... Finally, with no words sufficient to express her gratitude, she simply threw her arms around him and pulled him into a strong hug. Thank you, Yannick. Yannick gently returned the embrace. Thank you, Shenna. I'll think about what you said. Shenna practically danced up the steps to the north gate. Her appraisal of Yannick at their last meeting had been exactly right. He was a fine young man, and now that he had the stability he needed in his life, it was more clear than ever. Why, Yannick was 10 times the man Gareth could ever hope to be. Perhaps Shenna should be pursuing his affections instead. She hesitated at the top of the steps and glanced back over her shoulder. She could still see Yannick's lantern flickering in the distance. Should she go back for him? It would be easy enough to dash up to him and point out the window where she slept. Maybe she could give Yannick some late-night lessons in reading or mathematics, just like Gareth had done. He'd said he was having trouble with counting. A few lessons in mathematical theory would certainly help him out. Or perhaps she could just give him a kiss. A small gesture to let him know how much he meant to her. No, it was too soon for that sort of thing. Shenna needed time to recover from Gareth, time to mend her broken heart. If she struck up a relationship with Yannick right now, he would never be anything more than Gareth's replacement, and that wouldn't be fair to either of them. In any case, Shenna knew where to find Yannick now. There would be time for a relationship when she was ready. Did you have fun celebrating, Shenna? Shenna nearly jumped when she saw the black-robed figure waiting inside the gate. Yes, she stammered, making a hasty bow. Yes, I did. Thank you, Magistress Karna. That's good. The silver-haired woman nodded, her voice chill and calm as ever. I'd like to have words with you in my office before you go to bed for the night. Am I in trouble? Shenna asked timidly. Should you be? No. Good, Karna purred. Because now that you've completed your remedial lessons, it's time we discussed your future with the Magisterium. And that future will have to wait until next time.
Interesting. Very good cliffhanger. Okay. Before we continue, we need to bring in our belated and very, very late wizardy gentleman.
Dracarys.
So yeah, I'm looking through your comments in the private chat. So yeah, a lamp guide cartel charging more.
Oh yeah, and this
Yep,
proves
that's-
simply that.
Yep, that's the plan. Form a union.
It proves the system works because Yannick is upwardly mobile. Therefore, he doesn't need any welfare assistance. Therefore, everyone on welfare is just a lazy scum sheet. You should die. Pardon me.
Well, I mean,
That's
if you think
accurate.
about it, Yannick got about 30 shem from Shenna when they met last. And even so, with all that investment, he's still not completely making a profit. So is it really enough?
That's just because he's too lazy and doesn't try hard enough.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Plus, he's stupid.
Probably.
Yeah, that's your evil, Shenna.
oh yeah, the evil Shen actually had him put to death. I forget why.
Probably
Yeah.
psychopathic. Ethic nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looked at her funny, or I think he like spoke to her or something, and that was enough.
Yeah, long ago he was pecked to death by the crow because the crow had false consciousness, and I hadn't looked up his name yet.
So what's that last bit?
Crow had false consciousness or something.
Yeah.
The crow had false consciousness, so they need to enlighten it. They need to read to it from Das Kapital, and then it will become enlightened, and it will realize its true interests lie in joining with the proletariat.
Yeah.
Nah, just read the Necronomicon.
Because Akra.
Nah, just read the Necronomicon. It'll make his life so much better.
Yeah.
Turn him into an elder god.
Yeah. Raptor in the top hat says they're on the verge of a gilded era, which is, well, not inaccurate.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, the Gilded Age is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lovely period.
We're on the cusp of a gilded age ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, we've been there.
We had economic prosperity for a long time, and then the COVID happened, and now people are going to get, at least I'm going to get rich off of it, which I'm happy about.
Yay! Yay! I think we should have more. Pandemics so we can make a killing off of it. Literal killing. Pardon me. I don't know what's in me right now.
Definitely not. It's definitely nothing up your butt, since you're.
No comment, but no.
Just terrible. I'm sorry.
Kill it.
I have died before. It did not work.
Bother. There must be something we can do about the dun problem.
Well, my soul died a little bit watching Wheel of Time.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good then.
And
That's good then.
you didn't watch me shout violently and at Artemis Fowl when I first watched it. Artemis Fowl.
Oh God, they made a movie out of that?
Yes, they did, and it was awful. It makes Percy Jackson and Aragon look like masterpieces.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was awful. It took me 3 hours to watch that movie because I had to scream at my screen for an hour and a half at points and pause it.
Oh, good. Anything that can make you that annoyed can only be good. Therefore, we need more bad films.
Unless they're Transformers or Freddy Got Fingered.
Well, there are limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, Transformers. Ugh. I can't. Those are possibly one of the worst experiences in a movie I've ever had.
Yes, me too, and I only watched like 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, the masturbation conversation on its own is worthy of Michael Bay being put into a mental institution.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, Balerion, what have you got for us this week?
Let's see what happens this time. This is a weird thing I did several years ago. Well, of course it's weird because I did it. It's Count of Monte Cristo in Middle-earth. And I should warn you, there are some obscure references here or there in it, but hopefully you can at least get the gist of it. Mostly the obscure bits have to do with names and things, and stuff having to do with a small circle of my friends, but there should be enough that you can get. Oh, maybe I should try sharing my screen. Let's see if I can do this. Shouldn't be a problem. Let's see. Opera tab. This is one thing that Opera's relatively good at, is sharing screen in thingy. What do you call this thing? StreamYards, whatever it's called. Yes, just do it. Thank you. There. Okay. So, The Count of Monte Fato, edited by Leconte Menelvagueur. That was my name at the time. Typeset for Galleon Press by Mathieu Bladen. That's a friend of mine who put this up on the web. Okay. So, preface. Come on. Let's get me there. I say, monsieur, that you have a mind of metal and wheels and see only the outward workings of the machine, like the scholar who studies the works of Tolkien to discover the plate tectonics that led to the sinking of Mordor, in ignorance or indifference to the superb artistry and deeper intentions with which he writes. You view an ant as firewood, a Balrog as a renewable energy source, and a literary classic as a means to show yourself cleverer than your adversaries. Thus you are blind to those whom Eru and the Valar have placed above the ministers and kings of the earth. And veritably an invasion of dragons or trolls would benefit your civilization enormously. The Count of Monte Fato. On the 2nd of Naréal, 1838, of the Calendrier du Chiré, chez Réginald de Péregrin, A brilliant assemblage of young people await a mysterious stranger who goes by the name of the Count of Montefato. His unusual name and the air of canard de brie that attaches itself to every account of his exploits exercise the Sarumandian irony of the young people. The Hobbit were ever apt to laugh fatuously when the shadow was in their very midst. Junada, in his Causerie, relates how, in 1843, he went boating in the Sea of Middle-earth with the Marquis Thierry Bruc de Pipesqueak, and chanced upon a peculiar gangrel creature with a hissing accent. The creature led them to a mysterious island called Montefato, where trolls abounded and made for good hunting. Regrettably, the Marquis went insane upon landing on the island and went about calling himself Vice-Regent of Melkor and crying that Barad-dûr must rise again, twice as high as before, or the Jacobins have won. In the end, he jumped into a volcano, crying, Pierre Jacques, we meet before Eru. This sad loss inspired Junada to explore the history of the island and eventually to produce a tome entitled L'Ouest Marseillaise, ou Le Conte de Montefato. This work was immediately banned as savoring of Sauronisme, and has only recently been recovered by the present writer through sinister arts, and translated to the best of his abilities. Within minutes of his arrival at the abode of the Viscount de Peregrine, the Count of Montefato subjugated all those brilliant young people who hitherto had been ironizing so acerbically in his regard. Have a care, reader, lest his ring subjugate you. Half a second. Sorry, just grabbing some water. Chapitre 1. 3 is a complot, that is a plot or conspiracy. Rosédes Cotillon, a charming and virginal young hobbit maid from the farthing Midi, with hair as black as the smoke from a Gauloise and dark eyes like a gazelle or Sauron, was preparing mushrooms in her kitchen in Hobbiton when the fisher hobbit, Pipin de Touc, entered. Bonjour, mon ami, she said cheerfully, for the scent of the mushrooms had put her in an excellent mood. Rosédes, murmured Pipin, Rosédes, have you no reply to my professions of love? Oh, cease to torment me and accept my hand, my heart, and my fish. Or tell me that my life and death mean nothing to you, that my happiness is but a game or a hobbit picnic in your eyes. I have never encouraged your delusions. You cannot reproach me with a single coquetry in your regard, replied Rosédes. I love you as a brother, but another has my heart. I would hardly make a decent wife for you, after all, if I loved another. Samoir gamges, growled Pipin, picking a mushroom from Rosédes' pot and chewing on it menacingly. I will kill him. I'll boil him in water hot, a noble thing. Never did fountain sound so sweet as the squeals of an enemy when water hot is poured over his head. You will do no such thing if you truly love me, Pipin, said Rosédes. If he dies, I too will die. I will leap off the parapet of the western tower like Niniel at the death of Turin. That is Turin. No, Pipin, you will content yourself with my friendship, and you will not follow your evil thoughts. Like Niniel? I thought it was I you loved as a brother, retorted Pipin, popping another mushroom. And what assures you that he is not departed forever? He has been away on the Farazon with Captain Trask for several months. He will return, said Rosédes. I have faith. Pipon said nothing, but turned bright red and choked. Whether on his rage or the mushroom was hard to tell. Just at that moment, there was a knock at the door. Rosédes, came a voice that seemed about to explode with utter joy. Somewhere, cried Rosédes, leaping to her feet and rushing to open the door to her modest but chaste and pure dwelling. She and Samoir ran into each other's arms and embraced each other so tenderly yet passionately that their two souls were as one, even as a Silmaril cannot be separated from the light that inhabiteth it, without ceasing to be a Silmaril. Pipon's hand moved insensibly to the barrel knife in his belt. I love you, screamed the lovers. Pipon looked as though he were suffering from the mal de siècle, but the couple's attention was elsewhere. Pardon me. Beloved, cried Samoir Gomges, I am rich from the potato cargo we transported to Brie and Rivendell. We can now at long last marry. Et c'est un fait, ça. And Monsieur Maury, the kindly ship owner, has promised to make me captain since Captain Trask has passed away, and my poor father, who has been waiting lo these many months for my return, never complaining that he was starving to death and suffering from a nasty case of dysentery. Do you know what he said to me just now? Tout va bien qui finit encore mieux. Ah, sighed Rosédes, laughing through her mithril bright tears. Nothing can destroy our happiness now. Grrr, remarked Pipon. How odd. I never noticed we were a threesome, commented Samoir. Oh, Pipon, I forgot you were there, giggled Rosédes. Shake hands with my beloved Samoir, for since you were my friend, you will be his friend as well. A more suspicious person might well have wondered just what Pipon was doing in Rosédes' bedroom. But Samoir was an honest, simple soul who wouldn't suspect a ringwraith of foul play. So he smiled and shook Pipon by the hand. Pipon said nothing, but scowled in as friendly a manner as he could muster. Let us go out and promenade by L'eau, ma petite pomme de terre, said Gomges. I love thee, me dear, et c'est un fait, ça. Yes, veritably, said Rosédes. Au revoir, Pipon. Do not omit to come to our wedding, added Samoir. You shall have fried fish and quiche Lorraine served by S. Gomges. Monsieur could not refuse that. He and Rosédes left arm in arm. Yes, Monsieur could, growled Pipon to himself. He glared after the happy couple, sighed, finished the mushrooms, and left. As he walked down Rue Bagshot, he saw Otto de Saqueville Danglars, Samoir's bosun, chatting with Boutrebourousse, the hôtelier of that fine bistro, Le Pony Pensant. Monsieur Maury bestows all his favor upon Gomges, hissed Saqueville Danglars. It is Gomges, that insolent young gardener, who receives the command of the Farazon. It will probably gain fin de blague as well. That's bag end, sort of. It's true that he's at times of an arrogance, replied Boutrebourousse. Just now he was offering me advice on potato growing as if he were a maître d'œuvre. But fortune smiles upon him, and will continue to do so. Perhaps it will, replied Saqueville Danglars, unless. Seeing Pipon, he smiled broadly. You look out of sorts, mon ami, he cried gaily. Pipon merely grunted in reply. He has the air of a discomfited lover, remarked Boutrebrousse. It's hard to say that. I have lost my beloved, answered Pipon in a monotone, and I consumed all the mushrooms. La belle Rosédez, cried Boutrebrousse. She's marrying Gamgez. Isn't he the lucky dog? Pipon looked as if he were on the point of consuming himself, in flames like Fea Noir in the tragedy of Racine. Parbleu, you need cheering up, said Saqueville Danglars. Come with us to the Pony Pensant. I insist on bearing expenses for the drinks. Pipon looked utterly indifferent to this prospect, but mechanically allowed himself to be conducted to the bistrot. My wine has been uncommonly good since Gondot put that spell on it, remarked Boutrebrousse, filling glasses for himself and his two friends. Would you care for some fish? So juicy sweet, murmured Pipon, although it was unclear whether it meant the fish or Rosédez. Come on, you. Boutrebrousse summoned a garçon and ordered a tuna casserole for 3. Although personally, I'm more interested in the wine, he added, especially since I'm attempting a new diet, but I get no thinner. Drink then, said Saqueville Danglars. Pipon and I will bavarder a bit while you do so. Boutrebrousse needed no encouragement and drained several glasses in honor of Gamgez, Rosédez, and his entire circle of acquaintances, along with whatever other objet de toast struck his fancy. Before long, he was cheerfully singing songs about Thomas de Bombaville, the legendary couturier who started a fashion in yellow boots. Meanwhile, Saqueville Danglars spoke to Pipon. If I were you, mon ami, he said, I would put up a bit more of a fight before letting this Gamgez take my woman to the altar. The Touques are said to be a race that avenge themselves well. It is useless, said Pipon. What can I do? You can prevent the wedding, said Saqueville Danglars. It will be hard for Gamgez to marry Rosédez if he is dead. I like Samoir, said Boutrebrousse, who felt more friendly towards the mariner after a few drinks. He helped me with my potatoes and even cooked me a wonderful bouillabaisse once. Oh, we like him too, said Saqueville Danglars hastily. You're but making with the pleasantries. Why do you not have another glass? Parbleu, laughed the hotelier. I don't know why I don't take advantage of your most generous offer. And he did. As I was saying, continued Saqueville Danglars, turning to Pipon, kill Gamgez, and you gain Rosédez. No, said Pipon. She has said that she will die if he dies. And I know Rosédez. She never promises a thing like that in vain. Tomfool of a Touque, thought Saqueville Danglars. Is it not navrant? That is annoying, troublesome. When one's accomplices are such utter idiots, they steal his mistress from under the nose, and all he does is cry like a smurf. And what does it matter if the woman kills herself, so long as Gamgez does not become capitaine? I only hope he has enough wit to play the part I will set him. Très bien, he replied out loud. But what if you could remove Gamgez without killing him? Simply have him sent to prison. But how? Inquired Pipon. And prison, one escapes from it, unless it were the catacombs of the Dark Lord, protested Boutrebrousse. And if one escapes from prison and is named Samoir Gamgez, one takes vengeance. And d'ailleurs, I don't see why Gamgez should be imprisoned. He's a perfect gallant hobbit. Be quiet and drink to his health, replied Sackville Danglars. Wouter Berus promptly did. Turning back to Pipon, Sackville Danglars continued, before returning to Arnor, Gamgez followed his captain's last wish and delivered a letter to Charcolion in exile in Brie. This letter, along with the active accusation I am about to write, will keep Monsieur Gamgez in prison for a long time. Since Aragon the 18th's government considers Charcolionist opinions to be very unfashionable indeed. Sackville Danglars thereupon took out a pen and paper, and writing with his left hand, in order that his right handwriting might be more difficult to recognize, penned the following act of accusation. Monsieur the steward du roi is warned by a friend of the throne and of the Valar that the hobbit named Samoir Gamgez, first mate of the vessel Pharazon, who arrived this morning from Rivendell by way of Brie, has been charged by Captain Trask with a letter to the usurper, and by the usurper with a letter for the Charcolionist faction of Anumenas. The traitor is a stout little fellow with a cleft in his shin, a perky bonobite with a bright eye. You will find the proof of his crime in arresting him, for you will find this letter either on him, or on his father, or in his cabin on board the Pharazon. After Pipon had read this sotto voce, Sackville Danglars put the accusation into an envelope and sealed it. Let's see. There should just be one more page left. Yes. "Eh," said Butcher Barus, "you are plotting something against my friend." "And I told you we were just but joking, did I not?" retorted Sackville Danglars. "I may be drunk, but I can see through an Arc de Triomphe of brick in time," said Butcher Barus, trying to seize the accusation. Sackville Danglars neatly pulled the act of accusation out of Butcher Barus's reach and poured him another glass. "Look," he said, "to prove you're only joking, I will throw this bagatelle into that corner, next to the bidet. Then you will know that we mean no harm to our friend Gamgez." Thereupon he turned the accusation into a paper aeroplane, avant lettres, and tossed it into the corner with the pornographic posters. "Retrieve it later," he whispered to Pipon. "You know well what to do with it." Pipon said nothing. Butcher Barus, meanwhile, was at the last stages of drunkenness that precede the utter loss of the senses. "I will sleep in Gamgez's honor," he muttered. "I have to use the bidet and then go," said Pipon. "I have to see someone about the drains in my tunnel, or else about a dragon. C'est presque la même chose." On his way to the bidet, he subtly stuck the accusation under his hat. While Butcher Barus said farewell to the wine barrel in the cellar, Sackville Danglars smiled to himself. And that is that. Well?
I'm intimately familiar with the story of Count of Monte Cristo, and I very much liked the references throughout. It was
Thank you.
very good.
Thank you.
Pippin is Fernand Mondego. Interesting choice.
Which name?
Fernand. Maybe it's Pippin is Fernand. I was like, okay, interesting choice.
Yeah, that's sort of random. I don't know why, but why not, you know?
Yeah.
I'm finding the accents, of course, very amusing.
I did my best.
I'm
That one.
imagining, of course, the entire Lord of the Rings being performed by a Frenchman.
You know, of course, that Preston Jacobs as Dario have a French accent.
I don't know.
Yeah. Preston Jacobs is often a comedic genius.
Yes, definitely.
Thinking about, I don't know.
So luckily not too obscure so far because it's basically the same story.
Yeah.
A couple of new
Yeah,
people came up.
Yeah, I love the Count of Monte Cristo. I also love the movie, though it is definitely not better than the book. Unlike Prince Caspian.
It's not better than the book. Probably not. Probably not better than. I've actually not seen the film, but it's probably not better.
I mean, there have been quite a few Counts of Monte Cristo, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm
Over
specifically
the
talking
years.
about the one with Guy Pearce and Jim Caviezel. I do like that one, and that's probably the best adaptation. But that one's definitely not better than the book. It doesn't fully. It seems like it doesn't fully understand uh, what the book is about, and kind of Hollywoodize the ending to make it so that the Count is completely in the right.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. No.
Or at least like doesn't do anything like that morally ambiguous.
Well, I mean, I was just reading. I'm reading the Count of Monte Cristo now. I just recently read the chapter where he's kind of subtly or not so subtly egging on the lady to go around poisoning people.
Yeah, they did not do that in the movie. They decided to cut that one out.
So, but does she? But she does go around poisoning people anyway. I assume.
No, they decided to do so. They decided to get rid of um, the guy, the solicitor, in a different fashion by having him kill his dad and bring him to justice because of that. So
Yeah. Okay. I guess that sort of works. Yeah.
yeah,
Not as interesting though.
it is not as interesting. I would definitely agree. It is a fun adaptation, but yeah, definitely. And it turns out that the kid was what's his face, the son of Mercedes Inferno was actually Edmond Dantes's kid the whole time.
What? How did that even happen?
Premature, immature conjugal relations.
Oh well, they would in the books they would never have done that. I doubt in the books. I doubt they even knew much about basic anatomy of that nature. I'm not sure they knew the facts of life in the book before they got married.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they thought the stork brought children.
Yeah, I have actually seen Telepus, and I actually have seen the Count of Monte Cristo anime where the Count looks like a blue alien.
Yeah, they could.
Where it's basically Count of Monte Cristo in space.
Uh-oh.
Literally.
Blue aliens in space. It's Thrawn.
No.
Oh my god, that would be an awesome twist, wouldn't it?
That would be kind of awesome.
I
Yeah.
gotta ask Balerion, what exactly is the program you're using to display this?
You know, oh, you mean how am I sharing screen? I'm doing it on I'm an Opera.
No, the thing we're looking at, like this format. What is it?
Oh, this format. Well, uh, this is well, it was done by my friend, and it's an HTML. He did it all in HTML.
Huh.
Hmm.
I think he used an FTP or whatever those things are called to get it on the web, and he did all the text. I think in Notepad. I'm remembering it a distance from what he told me, but I believe that's how he did it.
Hmm.
I mean,
As you can see, it's quite good. Except there are bits here and there where the accent marks are messed up because of formatting, but
yeah, I can see.
that's not
So,
really his fault.
That's the
so
thing.
there.
One of the things I really like doing is like all my own formatting for this stuff, and this sort of thing really gets me interested.
Hmm. So there was a question in the chat. Out of curiosity, Balerion, where are you from? You have an interesting inflection to the way you speak, and I'm curious if it's a regional thing.
Um, well, I was born in upstate New York of parents from California, but then I spent a lot of my childhood in Ireland and
Learn,
adolescence.
learning to drink that marvelous whiskey and earning the way is of the Irish and the leprechauns.
Oh,
Don't
Valerian,
mention
you've got a terrible accent. You really got to stop doing that.
don't
Watch some more Father Ted. That'll set you right as far as accents go. Or Dara
don't
O'Brien. Dara O'Brien. There's a good Irish lad. Edgy Byrne too. He's a good one.
and don't mention leprechauns to any Irish people.
Of course not.
I
They'll punch
actually
you in the face.
actually had an experience once where I was doing a parody and I had Lucky the Leprechaun turn up at one point, and the Irish person was not amused by Lucky the Leprechaun at all. They liked the parody in general, but not Lucky the Leprechaun.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, it seems like Balerion has had a very interesting life.
Well, childhood was interesting anyway, and
Yeah,
adolescence.
yeah. Cool.
All right.
So, plus I'm an Anglophile. I use like
So
mostly American, mostly English spellings.
so done. What have you got for us this time?
Alrighty. So last time I started on Inquisition of the Abyss, um, the thing that we saw was a strange figure chained in a bed of lava finally manages to break free of his chains and is climbing out of the ravine toward freedom. While that's happening, a young a well mid to late 30s captain named Arthur Varys Caldor and his wife have been tasked with rooting out cultists who have deviated from who are in a state of shadow rebellion against the establishment, at the established government. And so they've been tasked with rooting them out and bringing them to justice. And this chapter is going to focus on the father of Arthur, Thur, whose name is Varys Caldor Zane. And if anybody watches Suits, you'll notice the reference. Chapter 2, The Growing Dread. Lord Varys Caldor Zane sat at his desk and looked over the finances of his dying house. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed the bridge of his nose. I can't do this much longer. He took a deep breath and glanced over his remaining resources. The last few weeks have been a slow, painful decline as chunk after chunk of the Caldor land was sold off to accommodate the loans he'd been forced to undertake in order to keep his lands functioning. His tenants hadn't been able to keep up, so he'd had to pay his taxes to the prince using loans from the local banking house of Carmine and Prestor rather than squeeze them for a greater yield. Now they were losing more and more to the interest rates. The administrators might be lenient, but they still sent the bills regularly. Sighing, Varys slid his papers back and forth on the desk, unable to think of a way out. I don't have many options, he whispered, slowly standing and walking over to his safe. He opened it up, then carefully cataloged the money he'd set aside. Not enough to support his castle and lands for more than 3 years under other circumstances, and right now was not the best of times. I'll be lucky if I get enough to last 1 year. Grimacing, he closed his safe and then walked out of his office, carefully locking it behind him. I could ask my son for help, Varys thought as he walked through the old castle, feeling uneasy at how empty it was. He has Prince Alfar's favor, and maybe he can lend me some funds from his own lands. It wouldn't help, not long term anyway. Maybe he could eke out an extra year, possibly 2, but unless his land started yielding more than it was, Varys would still fail to meet his loan expectations. Before he could make his way down to the courtyard, his wife, Kate, walked up to him, a stark grimace on her handsome face. We have an issue, she remarked without preamble. What is it? Varys asked, immediately on guard. A rather annoying and quite wealthy young man looking to buy us out, Kate explained, adjusting the ruby ring on her finger. She only did that when she was irritated and considering using it. It was extremely rare to have someone from the mage class not wear the robes of their order, but there was a reason for that. Kate had never been formally accepted into the mages. Her father had simply trained her as an operative on the outskirts of the kingdom, far from the reach of the high mages. Instead, she wore a fine black and green dress with the back cut out to reveal the intricate linework tattoo across her back, and a similar open sleeve that exposed another lacework tattoo on her arm. Not usually her style, but it seemed like she was feeling bold today. Don't burn him to cinders unless it's necessary. Varys took a deep breath, then offered his arm to his wife. Sighing, she tucked her long back hair behind her head and her shoulder and took his arm with her tattooed one. You know me better than that, she said mildly. I need to work myself up to a proper cinder-making mood. Well, at least he's not that annoying. Varys stroked the hilt of his rapier, the gold filigree on the handle concealing the actual Kaladesh steel on both hilt and blade underneath the finery. That's just because I got out of there to find you as quick as fast as possible. Kate started playing with the edge of her sleeve. Varys breathed out slowly, then nodded decisively. Well, let's get this over with. The young man waiting in his waiting room was exactly what Varys had expected. He was quite chubby, with sleek 2 chins covered in stubble. The dirty ginger and blonde was a slight surprise, very much an aberration. His clothes, though, that was exactly as he had pictured. Eyesore-inducing red, green, and white, all mixed together with gold-smothered boots and a diamond-encrusted belt buckle. Grinning, the interloper stood up and put his hands behind his back, thrusting out his sizable stomach. Varys, he grinned, exposing not 1, but 2 gold teeth. My name is Dacus. I'm here to extend you an offer for your lands. Well, you don't waste time, Varys remarked, motioning for the visitor to take a seat across from him as he sat down on the wide chair. Smiling jovially, Dacus's chins and belly wobbled as he took a seat on the couch. He almost filled up 2 spaces with his large paunch. Gracefully, Kate took a seat next to Varys, making herself comfortable by leaning herself on his side. What is your offer? Kate asked, tapping her fingers against the arm of his chair. Like a rather incompetent magician producing his last lackluster final trick, the fat man pulled out a rolled-up piece of vellum. This is a contract of exchange that my stewards have drawn up, he grinned. I'm sure you'll find it acceptable. You're assuming that I wish to sell at all. Varys deliberately didn't take the paper and just fixed his hard blue eyes on Dacus. Why would I? The jovial expression slipped from Dacus's face to be replaced with something a bit more businesslike. You don't waste time either, he remarked, voice losing its previous friendly tone for a distinctly flat tone as he slit at the paper on the table in between them. I'll not miss words, then. You're on a sinking ship, and the only thing that can save you is a miracle investor who will provide you with connections far better than the ones you have currently. And if your trade partners have been able to give you more than trickles, your debts are quite high, and your lands are producing smaller and smaller yields with each passing year. And you're this miracle investor. Kate took the paper and unrolled it, her face impassive. As soon as she read it, her face darkened. This isn't half of what the land is worth. She passed the paper to Varys as if it were a dead animal. Eyebrows furrowed, Varys took the paper in between two fingers and looked it over. My wife has an accurate assessment of your offer. He stroked Kate's bare arm absently. I'm going to have to demand at least double that in order to even consider taking it. Oh, I consider you'll take this, consider how the value is going to go down. Dacus shrugged. Your lands are becoming slowly more and less fertile, with greater percentages of tares among the wheat, taking up the nutrients in the soil, no matter what your mage wife does. Your mines won't yield as much gold or ore, considering how many loads are being lightened. The smile that Dacus gave them made Varys want to draw his sword and skewer him like the pig he was. So you're the one who's been putting salt in our fields and trying to derail our mining operations. Varys closed his fist and carefully set the vellum on the table, making sure not to damage the valuable calf skin. I can assure you I won't forget you sabotaging my endeavors. Oh, I'm not the one doing that. I just know about it. Dacus leaned back on the couch, then pulled out another piece of paper, this one not as fine as the vellum. I'm brazen, but I'm not a criminal. If I were to do that, I'd be killing this deal in its crib. He handed the paper to Varys. I think you'll find this interesting. Intrigued despite himself, Varys took the paper and unfolded it. It was a map with multiple locations marked near his fields and mines, each of them and with other different indication of where the actual resource gainers were. How did you find out where the mines were? Varys asked. I have many spies, especially with all the resources available to me, Dacus explained. At the moment, I stand to gain more from an alliance with you. It seems as though the cultists are targeting your lands in particular. That means to me that you're a valuable piece on the board. Varys exchanged looks with Kate, who seemed just as wary as he was. Why the low offer? Kate asked. Surely you would offer more to someone you want as an ally. Because I'm only willing to offer that much when I'm going to be putting my troops and mages at your disposal for an entire year, Dacus said mildly. When they gave him a surprised set of looks, he shrugged. I don't have military experience or aptitude, but I do have a mind for business. Along with choice cuisine, apparently, Varys thought. And you know that my husband and has an extremely good military record. Kate began turning the ring on her finger. What do you hope to aim by this? I mean to make a mark on the kingdom. Dacus tapped his fingers against the arm of his couch. If you and I can pool our resources, you'll receive a third of what we take from the cultists, and your overall yield will increase as we cleanse their saboteurs off our lands. So it's self-preservation on top of profit. Varys nodded slowly. This he could understand clearly. Shall we have a provisional relationship where we lay down an experimental pattern? That wouldn't be a bad idea. Dacus pulled out another paper, this one made from vellum like the first one, which is why I had this drawn up. Varys accepted the paper and looked it over. This deal is quite sound. He nodded. I'll agree to this. The figure clawed his way up the ravine, body burned and blackened, his clawed fingers scorched, and his feet nearly useless. Growling, he glanced down at the arm where the silver sword-shaped scars on his wrist. Without thinking, he accessed his power and changed the scar. Shadows rapidly floated from the scar and into his hand, forming into a long black sword. He slammed the weapon into the stone and hung from it, flesh slowly regrowing on his destroyed hands. As he clambered up on top of the sword, he let his attention drift to the weapon. The weapon was shadow-made steel, the elegant tapering blade long but elegant, though it was inside the rock. For a moment he sat on the flat of the blade. Then he began to climb again. Up and up he climbed, often using the sword as a way to rest his hands from clambering onto it and sitting on it, before latching onto the cliff again and transforming the sword into mist and storing it inside his wrist. Pain slowly diminishing, he clambered his way to the top of the ravine until finally he drove his sword into the lip of the chasm and pulled himself onto the blade that dragged himself over the edge. Broken body, devoid of energy, he collapsed onto the ground, for a moment leaving the stone board stuck in the stones. At last, he whispered, staring at the red sky above him, a spiked metallic hill rising beside him. I am free. He slowly pushed himself to his feet and walked back to the edge of the cliff. Casually, he bent down and ripped the sword free. Not even a nick or scratch, despite being rammed into solid rock over and over again. Casually, he ran his hand down the blade to the hilt where a name was carved into the black curved crossguard in eye-wrenching symbols. Artorias. My name, he said, fingers tracing the words. No, that's not my name. He thought for a moment. Then it all began coming back to him. Mordred. I'd almost forgotten. It's been so long. And that's the end.
Mordred, huh?
Uh-huh.
Oh boy. We're in for something, aren't we?
Yep.
I gotta say though, that it's pretty early, but the that image, that verbal image passing the contract like it's a dead animal, that was spot on. I absolutely love that. That is a great description.
Thank you.
Yeah. Really get the I can just absolutely see her handing that back.
What's that guy's name? Dacus?
Yeah, Dacus.
Dacus. He is a brilliant capitalist and therefore a credit to us all.
Yeah, I based him off of the actor playing Samuel Tarly.
Oh, his appearance. I mean,
Yeah, his appearance is very much Samuel Tarly. Just like uh, Varys is based off of Charles Dance, the actor who plays Tywin Lannister.
oh, but his name is Varys.
Yep. It's spelled. It's actually I used the spelling from a Yu-Gi-Oh season.
Okay.
Varis rather than YS.
At least you didn't write it in Japanese characters.
Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, partially because I am incompetent at formulating even the basic Spanish sentences, despite having several, at least 4 semesters of it in college. I just haven't practiced.
Yeah. And Spanish is not that hard. Fortunately, what do you call it? Language? Japanese, on the other hand.
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, that's the chapter, and we finally get to uh like at least like getting some more information on this guy. A that we don't get his name in the first chapter, and now we get his name. And it seems like and one and his name isn't really like Mordred as in the traditional spelling, it's Mordred, like Dread rather than Dred.
But M-O-R, not M-O-R-E, but M-O-R.
Yeah, Mordread.
Fair enough, because the name Mordred was originally Modred anyway, and they added the R. I suspect that Mallory added the R because Mallory liked adding letters.
Mallory is an interesting person, it seems.
He likes doing weird things to names.
Yeah. Any other like thoughts on it?
Not yet, not much.
Okay.
I do
The-
like
the-
the early politics,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can tell of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like the economics too?
Yep.
Yeah, that bit was interesting. But what does Mordred to do with Duckus and those other people?
He's going to meet up with them, and they're going to um eventually through very strange circumstances that I think you'll find interesting.
And then they're going to go see the wizard. Am I right?
No.
Bother.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz is overrated anyway.
The Wizard of Oz doesn't think much of you either.
The Wizard of Oz is actually political propaganda.
I'm fully aware that it's about the gold and silver standard.
Well, that's a theory anyway. We should add that it's not
It is a
necessarily.
theory, yes.
Yeah. I mean, people can allegorize anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like death of a whole lot of death of the author involved with that particular theory, especially since like the book is uh, the book has some really weird like rule of three breaking weird strange stuff going on with it, and the arcs of each of the characters don't really make that much sense, especially
Well,
the Tin Man. The Tin Man's very weird in both versions of the story.
well, I don't know about arcs and stuff. I mean, it's not on that. It's not on that deep a level.
Well, I mean, like just even thematically, his story doesn't really make sense, where he doesn't really develop. He starts out as he isn't a coward like the Cowardly Lion, or even like thinks he's like the uh like the Scarecrow. He's the main thing that he has is he kills things with his axe.
You know how he became the Tin Woodman, right? Or maybe you don't, because it's not in the. I don't think it's in the film.
I've read the book, so I know that it's because of a whammon. And
Well,
then he couldn't. He was so sad that this lady didn't love him that he got turned into a Tin Man, as far as I remember.
That's not what I remember. What I remember is he was.
He
Did love a woman, but he was a Tin Woodman. He was chopping wood. Chopped off an arm. Oh, I'll get it replaced. So he gets it replaced. Some guy replaced it with tin. And it goes through the entire body until like he's entirely replaced. Like his entire body gets replaced, like one organ after another. It's kind of it's
darkly amusing.
Yeah, there are some contemporary references here and there, and in the Oz books, there's references to suffragettes, sort of, in the Land of Oz, and there's references to various new technology. There's a phonograph who gets comes to life and gets shunned by everybody.
Yeah, I do think that the the structure with the villain is really weird. That's one thing that I really don't like about the fact that the Wicked Witch of the West is a joke in the book. And
in the book, she's anticlimactic, yeah.
And also the opponents getting to the castle of the travelers getting to the castle is really strangely put together, where most of them do not make thematic sense. Where it's just the Tin Woodsman kills the wolves. Like the Tin Woodsman does most of the work. It's like you're supposed to be like the thing that needs a heart. Why exact? And it's never remarked upon that you're very easily killing these things. Both are overrated. I really don't like the movie. I find it soporific. Aside from the Scarecrow is fairly amusing.
I actually prefer the other books to the Wizard. Some of the other books to the Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like I much prefer the Land of Oz with what is it? Odo the Unlucky?
No, Tip. Ojo the Unlucky is in Patchwork Girl, and that's the other one I like.
Patchwork Girl. Oh, Patchwork Girl. Yeah, I can never remember.
That one might be my favorite of the lot, just because the Patchwork Girl is amusing.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about the only thing I didn't like about the Land of Oz when I was a kid was the ending.
Wow, there are so many Oz books. Holy cow.
Oh yeah, there's like globs of them. I think Baum wrote a dozen of them, and then there's a bunch of others I never read.
Alrighty, well, if there's no further stuff, I think we'll call it good. We will be doing our Wheel of Time show watcher wrap up on Monday. That should be fun. And you can hear Balerion, aspiring writer, and Von Lustra talk about their thoughts on the show as people who have not read it, read the books. And then we'll do a book reader stream at some point. Probably.
I'd love to do enough for that.
Yeah. maybe. I think you will definitely be in a minority because most of the other book readers hate the show.
No.
I don't-
I mean, I'm not really attached to it either way. It's just interesting to look at.
Okay, I would be down. If you want to. It'll be. I know. Like Dr. Crow actually like quit watching the show. Like he's like, I'm done. Like he quit after episode 4 or 5. I can't remember which. And he just decided, I'm done. I don't want to watch this show anymore. But and I'll be uploading bits of Dark Souls gameplay of my work through of that particular game, and hopefully you guys enjoy. See you later. Bye.
Happy New Year.
See ya.
Cut, Fred, check the